A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Let's learn about Scientology. All the words and strange definitions to make normal terms seem far more malicious. Harvard laid a clever trap, but in the end it's a whole bunch of crap. Hello there, darlings. My name is Samuel, aka the SP Chef. I'm an ex-Scientologist. I grew up within Scientology as a child, and when I was 13 years old, I joined the elite group within Scientology called the C organization in East Grinstead in England. I then worked for Scientology for 7 years. I left when I was 20, came back to Switzerland, which is where I'm originally from, and then I left Scientology quietly with 25. But it was only with 31 that I, for the very first time, talked about my own experience within Scientology publicly. And ever since then, I have been publishing different interviews. I've been doing videos talking about my experience in Scientology on my channel, so do check that out if you're interested in that. But here on this series, the ABCs of Scientology, I will break down the different Scientology words and terms that Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, invented, made up, to explain Scientology. Now that can get quite difficult, which is why I thought I'll do a series where I will take each letter of the alphabet and then take some words for each of these letters that are commonly heard around within Scientology, and maybe even people who have never been in Scientology may have even heard some of these terms. So I will show you exactly what he has written about it, because there are two Scientology dictionaries that he, Hubbard, wrote to explain these Scientology words. And I will read out loud to you exactly what he wrote, and then if I need to explain, I will explain a little bit further what that means exactly, and I will give examples where I would have used that word or that term. So without any further ado, this week the letter will be... Hello there, darlings. So today we're going to continue with our series, the ABCs of Scientology, and this week we have the letter C. This is a juicy one, so I picked out 10 words that I thought were of interest. So we're going to look at the word Cadet Org, Cadet School, Children, Chinese School, Church of Scientology Membership, Comm Basket, Confront, Criminal, Cult, and Customers. So these are words that are defined by Hubbard in his admin dictionary. Cadet Org. It will be a 7-division org manned by children who have actual posts. Its org board must be planned out, must be standard. Any discipline goes through the Cadet Org. They must, every one of them, be hatted. Unless they are sign up ESO members, the children are used in the galley or estates, EPF only. There must be a nursery. There must be QMs on duty as reception. There must be stable personnel, and there only could be if this were to have the status of an org. You want quarters where you can have a baby care unit, dormitories, kitchens, and moderate space for the Cadet Org desks, auditing and qual functions. Why should they be miserable and knocked about when they can have their own org and be respected and demand respect from their elders as well, and feel proud of themselves? The real trick is to get them over to course without their having to use naughtiness to be covert course. A Cadet Org could accomplish that. ED 18 area estate. Alright, so let's break this down a little bit. So Cadet Org, it will be a 7-division org. So in Scientology, you have the different so-called churches, but really they are called orgs, organizations, and they have an org board. So that's not an unusual thing. Many companies have an org board. It's not quite as intense as it is in Scientology, but you basically have at the top, you have the boss. In the Cadet Org, there would be the CO Cadet Org, and then you would have the deputy CO, and then it will open up, and then you've got 2 senior positions who are above each 3 divisions. So you've got division 1, 2, 3, and above that is the supercargo, that's that position, and then you've got 4, 5, and 6, and above that you've got the, I believe it was the chief officer, who was in charge of that. And then you've got the 7th division, which is actually not on the end at number 6, but it is on the left side of number 1. That's where Division 7 is, and that's basically where all the executives are once again listed, including some special posts, or rather, in other words, some special jobs. So this is a 7-division org board, because there are different kinds of org boards. Some have more divisions, and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of org board it's going to be. And it's going to be manned by children who have actual posts. So posts is another word for a job. So you have an actual job. For example, I don't remember the exact name of my post when I was in a Cadet Org, but I was in Division 2, and I was in charge of making money. I needed to make money for the cadet, and I did that by baking cookies, cakes, and things like that, and then selling them, and that way we were able to make money. So that was my responsibility while I was in a Cadet Org. All right, they must, every one of them, be hatted. Hatted means that you have basically been trained on your job, so you know what you're doing. Now, talking about myself, I was briefly hatted. So when I came into the Cadet Org, there was this lady who was a great baker, and she then ended up, after completing the Cadet Org, going into the Sea Org, which is the elite group within Scientology where you work for the rest of your life. And then she was sent off to Flag to go and work in a restaurant there. I don't know if she still works there. I think she would have left the Silk by now, thankfully. But she was very gifted as a baker. And before she left, she showed me some things of how to do something. And that is basically hatting, to show somebody, okay, this is how you are supposed to do your job. Usually you have also something to read, some references, maybe some policy that is connected to your job. That I do not recall having done that, but she basically showed me how to bake. She showed me the bakery books that we had, which one of them I believe was from Mary Berry. It was called, I think, the Ultimate Cake Book or the Ultimate Bakery Book, something like that. But it was already an older edition. So I was there. This would have been in 2005, and the book looked quite, quite old, so it was probably a bit of an older edition. Anyway, and so that is the sort of hatting that you basically show them, this is how you're supposed to do your job. So they must, every one of them, be hatted. Makes sense, so you know what you're doing. Unless they're signed up to ESO, the children are used in the galley or estates, EPF only. So the galley, that's a ship's term to mean the kitchen. So we are supposed to be used in the kitchen. So children are supposed to work in the kitchen, and estates EPF. So EPF is the Estates Project Force, which is the boot camp that you're supposed to do just before you join the C organization. Now, when you join the Cadet Org, you don't have to do a boot camp. You just are in the Cadet Org, and once you are ready to join the actual Sea Org, which at that time when I was in the Cadet Org, it was at age 14 up to the age of 16. So from age 14, you could join. But sometimes, for example, in my case, I actually stayed until I was 16, and then I did the EPF. I did try to do it when I was 14. I didn't make it, and then I did it again when I was 16, and then I was done with that, and I was an actual Sea Org member. So that's the EPF. Now, I'm a little confused by this because it says, unless they are signed up to ESO members, the children are used in the galley or estates EPF only. I don't really understand what they mean by that, what is meant by that, because we would all be having signed off to become Sea Org members. Because the whole point of the Cadet Org is, it is an organization for the children of Sea Org members. So you're a Sea Org member, you have children, but they're too young to join the Sea organization, and so they get stuck into the Cadet Org. But you, the parents, you still are in the Sea Org. So it is understood that these children in the Cadet Org, they are going to join the Sea organization. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe when this was written, it was a bit different back then, I'm not sure. But when I was in a Cadet Org, we did so-called missions. So these are written orders by other Sea Org members to help out, yes, in the galley, help out in estates, yes. So we would dig, we had actually once, we dug out a pond. It was a small pond, mind you, it wasn't like a huge thing. It was a small little pond. That's the sort of thing we did. We did weeding, we did cleaning, a lot of cleaning. When there was special events happening at St. Hill, which was the main Scientology hub in England, we were sent to St. Hill to help set it up, build the stages, put out the chairs and things like that. So then this is the sort of work we would do. So I'm not quite sure. This may be something that was done back in the day, but when I was there, that wasn't the case. All right. There must be stable personnel. Fair enough. There must be baby care unit. Okay, this I understand. This was in the past. When I was in the Sea Org, you had to be, well, when I was in a Cadet Org, you had to be at least 10 years old. So there was nobody under 10 years old. But back in the day, you actually had SIG members who were able to have children, to actually have babies in the Sea Org. But then when I joined, there was already, for a number of years, an order put through that you're not allowed to have children. So it was only at the age of 10. So this is a bit, outdated from my time anyway. Yes. Okay. The Cadet Org. So then it says, you want quarters where you can have a baby care unit, dormitories, kitchens, and moderate space for the Cadet Org desks, auditing and qual function. Okay, so we got the quarters. So we lived in small rooms with bunk beds, all the boys in one room, all the girls in another room. When I was in, we actually had, I think, 2 rooms with girls, because we had much more girls than boys, and then we had 1 room with boys. Need to make sure we all had space. We had a little area where we had some desks and an area we could work. Auditing and qual function. So auditing in Scientology is a weird version of counseling, where you use an e-meter, an electrical meter, which is supposed to measure. There's this very small electric flow that goes through your body. You hold 2 metal cans, and then you've got a little electric flow that goes through your body. You've got the e-meter in front of the auditor, who's the counselor, and there's a needle, and the needle reacts in a certain way depending on how you think about some things. So in Scientology, the belief is you have a memory, there's a charge, so there's maybe some bad vibes about it, and through auditing you're supposed to release that charge, so you don't have a bad vibe about it anymore. And the auditor does that by reading the e-meter. So the needle will go in a certain way, and then he can determine whether this charge has been gotten rid of or not. So in the Cadet Org, you are supposed to have space for doing auditing, as well as qual. Qual is qualifications. So this is division. This would be division 4, I believe, on the org board, where you would do everything to do with courses, auditing, sessions, and things like that. And then on the last bit, it says the real trick is to get them over to course without their having to use naughtiness to be at covert course. Okay, to be course over something means that you have full responsibility of something, you take full responsibility of it, and you are the one who basically influences it. And you say, this is me doing this, and this is my responsibility to be course over something, right? So the real trick, is to get them over to course without their having to use naughtiness to be at covert course. So as I understand this, to be covert course, it means that you are in charge of something, but not directly. So you are sort of controlling it and taking responsibility of it, but not directly. So I suppose this would be a way of manipulation of children. You know, children do manipulate at times by crying. They want something, so they start crying, and as soon as you give it to them in the hand, the tears will stop. So it is, I mean, to say that children manipulate is maybe a little bit too crass a word of saying it, but you know what I mean. And I think this is what he's trying to say, that because children use naughtiness to be at covert course, to basically be still in charge of what is going on, but using naughtiness by doing so. And basically, Hubbard is saying, by giving them responsibility, by giving them a post, by telling them what the responsibility is, what they have to do, by making sure they do auditing, they become auditors, they do auditing, and so on and so forth, they will be at course over their own lives, and they will not be naughty. So sometimes in this dictionary, we'll have also drawings accompanying the definitions. And so here, in this case, we have a drawing of a cadet with a sailor's hat. Lovely. I never had one. All right. So let's continue with the next definition, Cadet School. The basic purpose of Cadet School is to A. Have all cadets able to read quickly with a large vocabulary and compose well. B. Have all cadets able to write swiftly, legibly, and elegantly. C. Have all cadets able to do arithmetic quickly, accurately, and legibly, including addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and including degrees, minutes, and seconds. FO 2013. Now, FO stands for Flag Order, which is a kind of policy only to be seen by SEAL members and cadets. And 2013, that's not the year, but that is just simply the number. So 2000 and number 2013. All right. I think it's pretty obvious that when you're in a cadet school, you're only supposed to learn how to read and write and do maths, and everything else is irrelevant. You're not allowed to learn about politics. You're not allowed to learn about science, about geography, about history, about any subject that teaches you critical thinking. Now, I don't think I have to explain why these subjects are very important for children to learn and why Hubbard would not want children to know about that, because fairly quickly I think they would figure out how bad Scientology is. Children. 1. People who have not passed check sheets and have no paid post in the Sea Org, FO 760. 2. A child is one who cannot handle an org or ship post. He or she is not on payroll, FO 1630. And we have the picture right there. Okay, so let's have a look at this exactly. So what does this mean to pass check sheets? So check sheets in Scientology, when you do courses, it is not like a school where you have somebody on a maybe a blackboard, a whiteboard or whatever, where they teach the whole class one subject. So let's say you're studying the book Dynetics with a check sheet. And then on the check sheet, it will say the name of the course you're doing. It will say the materials that you need. It will tell you the length of time it will take, or it should take, to be able to complete the course, right? It would tell you what is the purpose of it. And then it will start, for example, all right, read page 10 to 15. And then you read that, and then you sign it off. Done that. And it says, okay, write an essay on the subject of whatever it was that you read on those pages. And then you write the essay, you hand it over to the teacher, which in Scientology is called the supervisor. You hand it over to the supervisor, he will correct it, and then when it's okay, he will then sign on your check sheet. Yes, that's done. Good. And then it will say, all right, read, I don't know, the next 10 pages, the next 20 pages or whatever. And then you might write again another essay, or maybe you have to explain a certain thing to your supervisor or whatever it is. And it will say point by point what you need to do. And that is a check sheet. And at the very end, when you've done with that, you finished the book, you did all your essay, everything has been approved so far, then you need to go and attest to it. So that means you go again on this e-meter that I explained to you, which is like a lie detector, and you're basically supposed to say, oh, this course was amazing, I learned so much, and your needle is supposed to make a very specific sort of movement. And then the auditor will say, thank you very much, your needle is floating. So when it floats, it basically means that you are happy, you're content about it. And the whole point is that you are thinking about the course, you're thinking about the book that you just read. So in this example, Dynetics. And when the needle does a beautiful floating needle, it means everything is clear, you understood everything, everything is fine. If it does other things, it might mean that you still have misunderstood words, maybe certain things are not clear for you, and then you have to go back. And then once that is done, you've finished the course. Then the check sheet has been done, and then at the end of the week, usually on a Friday, you will get a little certificate maybe where it says, Samuel Zuli has completed the Dynetics course. So that is a check sheet. What else do we need to clear up? Cannot ship post. All right, so the rest is clear. So definition number 1, people who have not passed check sheets and have no paid posts in Sea Orgs. In the Sea Org. FO 760. 2. A child is one who cannot handle an org or ship post. He or she is not on payroll. FO 1630. So anyone who is incapable of holding a job is a child. Anyone who has not passed a check sheet and are not in and do not have a paid post in the Sea Org, they are a child. Now, to you, this may sound all right, fair enough, but in Scientology, in the Cadet Org, being a child is a bad thing. I remember actually vaguely that we had something called the condition of child. You're being assigned the condition of child, meaning you're not worthy anymore to be a cadet. You're now only a child. And that was a badge of shame. Because in this case, it says you cannot handle org or ship posts. So you're not able to handle the position, the job, the responsibility of in the Cadet Org. Now, something I have to clear up very quickly, it does say here, have no paid post in the Sea Org. Now, this gets a little confusing because, hang on a minute, when you're in the Cadet Org, you're not in the Sea Org, are you? Well, as a matter of fact, Hubbard says quite clearly in other FOs, so flag orders, regarding the cadets and cadet school and so on and so forth, that as a cadet, you are a Sea Org member. It is sort of a subsection of the Sea Org. However, if you want to then get into Sea Org proper, you still have to do the EPF, the States Project Force. So Hubbard oftentimes will refer to cadet also as Sea Org members and things like that because of that, just to clear up this little confusion or possible confusion. So this is what a child is. It doesn't say anything other than that. It doesn't say anything about age either. So yeah, I mean, in my case, when I was in a Cadet Org at the age of 10, you could join the Sea Org. But in theory, back then, when you were allowed to have children in the Sea Org, as soon as you had completed a course and you are able to hold a position in the org, you were not a child anymore. So I mean, this could be as early as 6, 7, 8 years old, right? You're not considered a child anymore. Now you have responsibility. You are on the same level as an adult, basically. So children is seen as something very negative in Scientology. Chinese school. 1. As very few Westerners have ever seen a Chinese or Arab school in progress, it is very easy for them to miss the scene when one says Chinese school. The term has been used to designate an action when an instructor or officer with a pointer stands up before an assembled class and taps a chart or org board and says each part of it. A Chinese class sings out in unison all together in response to the teacher. They participate. Chinese school then is an action of class vocal participation. It is very lively, loud affair. It sounds like chanting. It is essentially a system that establishes instant thought response so that the student, given 2 times 2, thinks instantly 4. You could teach the laws of listening and nulling, the auditor's code, axioms, and so on in this way. There are 2 steps in such teachings. A. The instructor taps and says what it is, then asks the class what is it, and they chant the answer. B. When the class has learned by being told and repeating, the instructor now taps with a pointer and asks, and the class chants the correct answer. Anything can be taught by Chinese school that is to be learned by rote. I think that's a typo. I think it's supposed to be by note. HCO PL, 13th of May 1972. So HCO is Hubbard Communication Office Policy Letter, 13th of May 1972. It is simply a kind of policy written text. There is a second definition, but that goes into it becomes more technical. And the main one is the first definition. So let's have a look at that a bit more precisely. So to explain it very simply, there's a person standing in front of a board. Maybe it has a rolled out piece of paper with something written on it. And then he has a stick where he points on it. And the first part he will do is he will say, blah, 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 what is it? And the whole group will have to repeat it. And this is how you learn different things off by heart. And you're supposed to learn it without thinking. He even says here in the definition, it sounds like chanting. It is essentially a system that establishes instant thought response so that the student given 2 times 2 thinks instantly 4. So that when we come to the second part, where the example B, where I as the instructor would say 2 times 2, what is it? They would have to instantly respond 4. That they are not supposed to think, okay, so I take 2 and then 10 times 2. It has to come immediately. So you basically learn it off by heart. That's the whole point. So in the first part, the instructor just goes line by line, what is it? So I say something, apples are green. What is it? Apples are green. They are delicious. What is it? They are delicious. And then you go through it. And then usually, although it doesn't say it here, but in practice, what I have seen is if it's a longer piece of thing that people have to learn off by heart, they will go then bit by bit, more and more. So then maybe the second time they go through, they go, apples are green and they are delicious. What is it? Apples are green and they are delicious. And it will go on, gone. And then by the end, when it's all done and they've done it all well, then we go to the second part, B. And let's say the overhead of what we're learning is simply called green apples. And then I will point to it with a stick and say, green apples, what is it? And then you're supposed to read out the whole thing. And this becomes very hypnotic. And it's difficult to actually get rid of some of the things that you learn. One of the things I remember off by heart that I learned is the definition of a team. A team has a tendency to know what the other team members are doing and thinking and coordinate thereby and therewith. And that is the definition of a team. It is people who cooperate one with another to push forward a common purpose, and they normally get along great. LRH. I had to do many times Chinese school on this when I was at Cadet Org and then later on in the CO. And I'm curious to know, please write it down in the comment section, if you're an ex-Scientologist, still remember if there is still something that you had to do Chinese school on and you can still remember now. I would be curious to know about that. Church of Scientology membership. Today, with a great expansion of churches of Scientology throughout the world, a new class of church membership is needed. It is additional to lifetime, international and associate membership. 1. It is called Church of Scientology membership. 2. It is free. 3. It does not have to be renewed annually. 4. It is terminated only by A. Announced departure of, and B. Expulsion from Scientology. 5. It is open to anyone who is in agreement with the aims and creeds of the religion Scientology. BPL, 24th of September 1973, R11. So I find this particularly amusing. So anyone who is an ex-Scientologist or somebody who has never been in Scientology but has been around the subject for a while will be shocked to read this. That Hubbard actually wrote that memberships in Scientology are for free. Nothing in Scientology is for free, particularly these days. But apparently back then it was for free. It was lifetime. You didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to renew it every year. And it was just simply removed if you had left Scientology openly or you were basically kicked out. And I would love it if David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, would do some word clearing on this definition, make sure he makes plenty of sentences, and then also imply this. That would be most marvelous. Comm Basket. 3 baskets constitute a comm station and consists of an in, pending, and out. These baskets are for the use of the staff members to whom the station belongs and the communicator who distributes and picks up dispatches, messages, and letters. WOPL, 9th February 1964. Alright, so this is fairly simple. This is a way of basically communicating within an organization. Because, of course, when Hubbard established Scientology and established the orgs and so on and so forth, there was no internet, there was no emails. So it was all written. And every person had on their desks 3 baskets. As it says, one says in, the next one would say pending, on the bottom it would say out. So in, so this is anything, so any piece of communication comes along from a different division, goes in because it's specifically for me. I can then take it, read it. If it just needs my signature, or I can do something very quick, I can do it right away and put it then on the out basket, because then you're done with it. If it is maybe something you still have to work on, you need to check out, maybe it's an order, maybe you're in the department which orders supplies, and you've got a division that needs certain supplies, where you need to order that first, so you don't have it right away. So then you can put it into the pending. So you know, okay, this is still an open thing. It's still happening. And everything that's in the out baskets will then be picked up by Division 1 of the org in the organization, which is in charge of communication. So they will pick up all the ones that is in out, and then they will basically distribute it to the right people. So anything that I put in my out basket will then have an arrow, or will have some indication that it shows, okay, this needs to go to that person, to that department, to that division, or whatever. And then that's how things would go around. Now you would think to yourself, oh, that makes sense, logical, back in the 60s, right? Shockingly, this is still happening now. I mean, obviously I can't say first-hand experience if it's still happening today, but it was still happening like this in 2000 and I can say up to 2014, because until 2014 I was still involved with Scientology here in Basel in Switzerland. Up to 2012, that's when I was working for Scientology in the C organization in England, and they were still using that. And I'm pretty sure in 2014 the internet and emails was already invented and generally in use, but they were still using this Comm Basket system. So also here we have a picture of what an in, pending, and out basket looks like. And I'm going to show you a bonus picture. This right here is the communication center. So remember when I told you that in Division 1, this is responsible for all the communication happening. So when you have your stuff in your out basket, somebody from Division 1 is going to come along and pick that up. And then they go into their office. And in their office on the wall, they will have this. They will have a communication center. So you have the whole baskets where you have, rather than it saying in, out, and pending, on there they will have the different posts, the different job titles, right? So I write something and it needs to go to Treasury Secretary, for example. So he will have, all the baskets will have the different post titles, the different divisions, and so on and so forth, and he just shoves it all in there, shoves it, and once he's done all of that, he will pick up each one and then bring it to the right place. And this is what the communicator of the organization would do. Again, it makes sense back in the day when you had no internet, you had no email, no way of internal system of communication, via email, internet, or whatever. Makes sense. But this is still happening. Again, until 2014, this was still happening. And I have no reason to believe why they would have changed that now, in the 21st century, in 2024. So, confront. 1. To stand facing or opposing, especially in challenge, defiance, or accusation. OODs, 27th of April 1972. 2. To face without flinching or avoiding. OODs, 27th of April 1972. 3. To be able to see what is or isn't before you. CBO 190. 4. Direct observation. HCOPL 18th of September 67. Again, all of these things in brackets, these are all the different sources where this has been taken from. I think this is fairly clear. I don't have to really explain, but confront is something that you hear a lot in Scientology. You need to confront this. You need to confront this. So basically, go in front of it. Do not flinch. You need to take responsibility. You need to face the thing that you need to do. You must not avoid it in any way or whatever. That is to confront. Criminal. 1. The criminal, the suppressive person, same thing, is trying to get even with people. That's his common denominator. He does it by covert omission or overt violence. It all amounts to the same thing. HOPL, 7th of December 1969, 2. 2. Real criminals may have bad meters, but crimes are often so unreal to them that they do not read. Needles read only on things within the reality or borderline reality of a person. And the reality level of a criminal is too bad for reads to occur in a majority of cases. HCOPL, 15th of November 1970 R. Alright, so the first part I think is fairly clear. So the criminal, the suppressive person, the same thing, is trying to get even with people. Now I am considered to be a suppressive person because I dare to speak out about Scientology. So I'm considered to be a criminal. So I'm a criminal and a suppressive person is the same thing. And I'm apparently trying to get even with people. I'm not sure with who I'm supposed to be trying to get even with, but fair enough. That's his common denominator. He does it by covert omission or overt violence. So covert omission means that he will maybe, so as I understand this, he would, for example, rather than saying the full truth of something, he will purposely not say certain things. So it's not directly a lie because he's just sort of not completely fully saying everything. So that's a covert omission or overt violence. So overt violence would be clear violence, just beating somebody, hitting somebody, shooting somebody, things like that. It all amounts to the same thing. Fair enough. Now, the second definition is a bit more technical, but I think it's very important also because this explains, for example, why. For example, if high executives leave Scientology and the public justifiably asks, well, hang on, why is this person now suddenly a suppressive person? This person has been leading main branches of Scientology for years and years and years, and now suddenly this person is a criminal. What is going on? How could this oversight have happened, And they use this definition as the perfect justification of that. That is why, although it is very technical, I thought it was very important to include this. Okay, so let me try to break this down in the most simple of terms. So here it's talking about meters and reads or reading. So the meter, again, is the so-called E-meter, which is like a lie detector. And the E-meter, the whole point of it is, so you have the meter in front, where you, the person who holds the cans, you do not see what the meter is doing, right? Because on the meter, you have a needle. You don't see the needle. The needle only is the other person on the other side, the auditor. Only he can see it. And you're there, and you're holding your cans, and there's a very slight electrical flow going through. And by holding both sides, you're basically completing the circuit. You don't feel any of it. It is so minuscule, such a minor amount of electricity, you don't feel anything at all. And the idea is that if there is no charge, if there's no basically bad vibes on a memory or just on a certain subject or whatever, the flow should just go very smoothly through without any interruption of the needle. If, however, there is some bad vibes, there's some bad charge, some bad stuff, basically, the electricity goes through and it has difficulty going through it. And then this shows on the E-meter. The E-meter will jerk, will do different things, and that will indicate to the auditor, oh, there's something happening, there's something going on there, right? And this is how you do auditing in Scientology. So the auditor will ask certain questions and direct the attention of the person being audited to a certain area, to a certain subject. The person thinks about it, and when there's a negative reaction on the needle, the auditor knows, okay, there's some charge, some bad vibe on that particular subject, so let's find out what it is. If the auditor will ask question, is this all there is to it? Is there any more that you would like to say about it? Have we finished with this? And I say, yes, I feel good about it, there's nothing more. But there's still some reaction. It means that I'm either purposely lying, I'm not saying the truth, or maybe I don't even know about it. And so the auditor will dig even further, until the needle will have a very smooth line, and then everything is fine again. So this is the E-meter, and when it reads, it reacts. The needle reacts. It reads in some sort of way, all right? So let's have a look at the second definition again. Real criminals may have bad meters, but crimes are often so unreal to them, they do not read. Okay, so real criminals have bad meters. So basically, the e-meter will have a very bad reaction. So this is how you can tell, okay, this is a criminal in front of you. However, but crimes are often so unreal to them, they do not read. Meters needles read only on things within the reality or borderline reality of a person. And the reality of a criminal is too bad for the reads to occur in a majority of cases. So, this basically tells you that in order for the e-meter to even be able to pick up there's some bad charge, some bad vibe, you have to know or think that that thing that you did or that you thought was actually bad. Even maybe on a subconscious level that you sort of know, okay, this was maybe a bad thing. And that is how the meter can read it. However, he's basically saying that in the case of a psychopath, so he doesn't use the word psychopath, but a psychopath, he does things without any emotions. He will just go and murder people in the most heinous way. And to him, it's the same as picking a flower. There's no difference to him, really, in the sense of emotional commitment to the action that happened. And he basically says somebody who's so evil, he has no reality. What is reality? Reality means it becomes real to you. It has some sort of impact to you. You understand deeply what that actually means, this thing that you're doing or the thing that you're thinking, right? So a criminal has no reality on crimes that he has committed. So he doesn't see anything wrong with that. He doesn't see. So if I had murdered people, have stolen, robbed banks, and so on and so forth, and the auditor will ask me directly, well, have you murdered Joe Blow? Have you murdered Sue White or whatever? Have you robbed this bank? And even if the auditor knows exactly that I did these things, and of course I would know I did these things, it would not show on the e-meter because I'm such an incredible, terrible criminal that I'm not even capable of understanding or realizing that what I did are crimes. So I think this is very important to highlight this definition, because this is what they will use to say, well, this is why this high status executive in Scientology has left and had gone so many years unnoticed, but actually was a criminal for many, many years, because when he was in the e-meter, the needle didn't pick it up. That is the reason why. Very clever, of course, because that way Scientology can get away with that sort of question, with somebody asked fairly, well, why was this person there for so long? Well, because he was such an incredible criminal. Cult. 1. Cult is uniformly defined as a system of religious worship or ritual. LRHED 28th int. 2. Cult by the Merriam-Webster dictionary means 1. A religious practice. 2. A system of beliefs and ritual connected with the worship of a deity, a spirit, or a group of deities or spirits. 3a. The rites, ceremonies, and practices of religion. The formal aspect of a religious experience. 3b. Roman Catholicism. LRHED 28th int. Alright, well, that's fairly clear, I think. I don't have to explain it much. This is what Hubbard says what cult was. Now, unfortunately, I cannot fact check whether these are the actual definition of the Merriam-Webster dictionary, because I don't know which version he had, because it doesn't even say which year this was written, so I can't tell. I couldn't pick up the old Merriam-Webster dictionary. However, I did take the liberty of going online in the Merriam-Webster dictionary to have a look what it actually says. Cult. 1. A religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. Now I looked up this word spurious or spurious. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. It basically means something that is false, although it does seem to be genuine. So it is false, although it seems as though it is actually true, but it isn't. So a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. I think we can already stop. I mean, this is basically what Scientology is. Also, its body of adherents. Makes sense. 2a. Great devotion to a person, idea, objects, movement, or work, such as a film or book. Such as criticizing how the media promotes the cult of celebrity. Especially such devotion regarded as literary or intellectual fad, B. The object of such devotion. C. A usually small group of people characterized by such devotion. The singer's cult of fans. The film has a cult following. 3. A system of religious beliefs and ritual. Also, its body of adherents. 4. Formal religious veneration, worship. Alright, so the rest of the definition is fairly clear, but the definition number 1 is the one that's actually missing from the definition that Hubbard gave. Now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if this definition was included back then when he wrote this. It may have been. I don't know because I don't know which version of the Merriam-Webster dictionary that he had at the time. But this is what we have now. A first definition is that which, of course, is the most applicable to Scientology. All right, and at the very end, we have customers, PCs, and students. H.C.O. Pierre, 11th of November 1969. Now, why I find this amusing and also important to highlight. So first, let me quickly explain. So a PC is a pre-clear. Pre meaning before, clear is a state of clear. This is a very important status that you can reach in Scientology by doing many hours of auditing and obviously paying a lot of money. So this is called a PC. So somebody who is on auditing to become a clear. And after you become a clear, you are trying to become an OT, an operating thetan, which is a higher status. So PCs and students. So basically anyone in Scientology that is doing auditing or students, there will be somebody who just studies a course, for example. And I find this amusing because have you ever heard of somebody saying, oh, this is a customer, and another person thinking, oh, he must be talking about me because I went to church on Sunday. No, when you go to church on Sunday, you're not a customer. You are a member of the church or whatever. In Scientology, PCs and students, they're considered to be customers. So this shows again, this shows openly that Hubbard never thought of Scientology as a religion. It is not a religion, it is a business, because a business has customers, okay? A religion doesn't have customers, a religion has customers. So I thought this was brilliant. It's short definition and it just puts it right to the point. So my darlings, I do hope you found that rather interesting, educational, maybe a little entertaining too. Do let me know down in the comment section if you yourself have come across these words and have a funny little story about it. Do put it down in the comment section as well for all the class to see and read. And with that, I hope you have a most excellent day and marvelous week. Goodbye. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Let's learn about Scientology. All the words and strange definitions to make normal terms seem far more malicious. Hubbard laid a clever trap, but in the end it's a whole bunch of crap.